The moment Karen Mitchell told me I was too old to understand the truth, the entire courtroom froze. In more than 20 years on the bench, I had heard angry people, dishonest people, and arrogant people. But what happened that day was different, because the woman standing in front of me wasn't just insulting a judge. She was trying to destroy an innocent 18-year-old college student's future. And she had no idea that within the next hour, her entire case would collapse in front of millions of viewers. I'm Judge Judy. Over the years, I've learned that the most dangerous people in a courtroom aren't always criminals. Sometimes they're ordinary people who become convinced that money gives them power, and power gives them immunity. Karen Mitchell was one of those people. The moment she entered my courtroom, she looked like she belonged there. Not because she respected the legal system, because she thought she controlled it. She wore an expensive designer suit. Diamond earrings sparkled under the studio lights. Every step she took seemed carefully calculated. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't worried. She looked like a woman arriving to collect a victory she had already purchased. Then I looked at the defendant, Ethan Carter, 18 years old, freshman in college, part-time grocery store employee. The suit he wore clearly wasn't new. His hands trembled slightly as he sat down, and when he glanced toward the audience, I noticed a woman sitting alone in the back row, his mother. She looked terrified. Years on the bench teach you how to read fear. That woman wasn't afraid of losing money. She was afraid of losing her son's future. I opened the case file. Karen was suing Ethan for $25,000. According to her, Ethan had deliberately damaged her Mercedes-Benz in a grocery store parking lot. If she won, Ethan would owe more money than he had ever seen in his life. For Karen, $25,000 seemed like an inconvenience. For Ethan, it could mean dropping out of college forever. I began the proceedings. Ms. Mitchell, tell me why you're here. Karen stood immediately, confident, prepared, almost theatrical. Judge Judy, this case couldn't be simpler. This young man damaged my vehicle and refuses to take responsibility. She pointed toward Ethan, then smiled. Frankly, I'm not surprised. Kids today think they can get away with anything. A few people shifted in their seats. I said nothing. One thing I've learned is that arrogant people often defeat themselves if you simply let them talk. Karen continued for nearly 10 minutes. Every sentence made Ethan look worse. Every sentence made her look better. At least that was her goal. She described herself as a successful businesswoman, a taxpayer, a responsible citizen. Then she described Ethan as careless, irresponsible, immature. The more she spoke, the more uncomfortable I became. Not because I believed her, because I noticed something strange. She never talked about evidence. She talked about status, power, money, reputation. That detail stayed with me. Then Ethan finally got a chance to speak. His voice was quiet. Your Honor, I didn't touch her car. Karen laughed loudly. Several audience members looked at each other. I raised my hand. Let him finish. Ethan swallowed nervously. I was working a double shift that day. I parked beside her vehicle, went into the store, and when I came back, she was taking pictures and accusing me. Karen rolled her eyes. Convenient story. I ignored her. Then Ethan added something unexpected. If I lose this case, I don't know if I'll be able to stay in school. The courtroom became noticeably quieter. Even Karen stopped smiling for a moment. Then she recovered. That's not my problem. The words landed heavily. Years of judging human behavior taught me something. People rarely reveal who they are during prepared statements. They reveal themselves in moments like that. It's not my problem. Not a legal argument, a character statement. Then came the moment nobody forgot. Karen looked directly at me, crossed her arms, and said, if you actually believe this kid's story, maybe it's time for you to retire. The courtroom froze. Klimped silence. I've been insulted before. That's part of the job. But this wasn't frustration. This wasn't emotion. This was calculated disrespect. She wanted a reaction. She wanted control. I looked directly into her eyes, then calmly replied, I'll think about retirement later. Right now, let's discuss evidence. For the first time all afternoon, her confidence cracked, just slightly. The case moved forward. Karen presented photographs of the damage. The scratch was significant. The repair estimate was substantial. On the surface, her case looked strong, very strong. I noticed Ethan looking toward his mother again. She quietly wiped tears from her eyes. At that moment, I understood the stakes. This wasn't merely a lawsuit, this was survival. Then Ethan surprised everyone. "Your Honor, I brought surveillance footage." Karen smirked. "Of course you did. But I noticed something." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. The video appeared on the courtroom screen. The audience leaned forward. The footage showed Ethan pulling into the parking lot, carefully, slowly, parking perfectly beside Karen's Mercedes. No collision, no contact, no damage. Then he walked into the store. The audience remained silent. Karen crossed her arms tighter. The footage continued. And then everything changed. A delivery van entered the frame. The driver attempted a difficult turn. The van drifted too close. And suddenly, the side mirror scraped directly against Karen's Mercedes. The exact location, the exact damage, the exact scratch. Gasps echoed throughout the courtroom. Several audience members covered their mouths. Karen's face went pale, but what happened next fascinated me. Instead of accepting reality, she fought it. That's not the whole video. Interesting, not fake, not manipulated, not inaccurate, just not the whole video. A classic psychological response. People cornered by truth often attack the edges instead of the center. Then came the second twist. A witness entered, Michael Reeves, Karen's former operations manager. The moment he walked through the courtroom doors, Karen's expression changed completely. Fear, real fear. Years on the bench taught me that sometimes the most important testimony begins before a witness even speaks. Michael took the oath, then looked directly at Karen. This isn't the first time. The courtroom became silent again. "What do you mean?" I asked. Michael took a deep breath. "Karen has filed similar claims against people before, mostly people who couldn't afford lawyers." Whispers spread through the audience. Karen immediately objected, but the damage had already begun. Michael continued. "Most people settle because they're scared." I watched the audience. They were no longer questioning Ethan. Now they were questioning Karen. But the biggest revelation hadn't arrived yet. Michael reached into his briefcase, then handed over several printed screenshots, text messages. The courtroom monitor displayed them. The first message appeared. Karen had sent it months earlier. "He's just a college kid. He'll fold before trial." The room went silent. Another message appeared. "People like him don't fight back." Then a third. "Pressure works better than evidence." The audience erupted. Gasps, whispers, shock. I looked at Karen. Her confidence was disappearing in real time, but the final blow was still coming. Michael handed over an audio recording. I allowed it to be played. Karen's voice filled the courtroom, clear, confident, cold. "He'll get scared and pay. That's what people like him always do." Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The silence that followed was unlike anything I'd heard all year, because every person in that courtroom realized the same thing. This case had never been about justice. Karen didn't care about the scratch. She cared about finding someone vulnerable, someone she could intimidate, someone she could crush. And she believed Ethan was that person. I turned toward Ethan. "If you had lost today, what would have happened?" He stared at the floor, then quietly answered, "I would have had to leave college." The room remained silent. "My mom works 2 jobs. We barely pay tuition now." I glanced toward the back row. His mother was crying openly, not dramatically, not for attention. Just a tired mother finally confronting how close she came to losing everything she worked for. Even I struggled to remain emotionally detached, because judges see facts, but we're still human. And then Ethan said something I'll never forget. "I wasn't trying to win, Your Honor." He looked at his mother, then back at me. "I was just trying to stay in school." The courtroom fell silent again. This time it wasn't shock. It was understanding. Karen looked down. For the first time all day, she couldn't meet anyone's eyes. Not mine, not Ethan's, not the audience's. I closed the file, then delivered my ruling. "This claim is dismissed in its entirety." Relief flooded Ethan's face. His mother covered her mouth and began crying harder. But I wasn't finished. I turned toward Karen. "Ms. Mitchell, you did not come into this courtroom seeking justice." Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. "You came looking for a victim." Her eyes filled with tears. "You saw an 18-year-old student struggling to build a future and assumed he would be easy to destroy." The room remained completely silent. I delivered my final words. Power can help someone file lawsuits. I paused. It can help them intimidate people. Another pause. It can even help them silence the truth for a little while. Karen slowly lowered her head. Then I said the words that would later spread across the internet. But today, an 18-year-old college student taught you something money never could. I leaned forward. The truth doesn't care how powerful you are. Silence. Case dismissed. The gavel struck. Karen sat frozen. Ethan turned toward his mother. They embraced. And for a moment, the entire courtroom watched a future being saved. As people began leaving, I remained seated, thinking, reflecting, because that case reminded me of something important. The legal system isn't perfect, but sometimes, when the evidence is clear and the truth refuses to stay buried, justice arrives exactly when it's needed. Karen thought she could humiliate Judge Judy. She thought she could destroy an 18-year-old college student. She thought power would win. But that day, truth walked into courtroom, and once it arrived, everything changed.